Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.
Say it with me, everybody. For the second time in a row, the Montreal Canadiens just got. Think you know what way it's gonna go? Oh, I hit the wrong button. No, I
Oh
screwed
no!
up.
No, what happened?
I hit the sports interaction ad instead. So
Oh,
they get a free second. That's on the house. Sports interaction. We won't charge you for that extra second. That's embarrassing. Arguably, maybe not quite as embarrassing as the Sens nearly collapsing there at the end, but it's still pretty embarrassing. I'm gonna take that in stride, though. Not gonna let that affect the rest of the episode.
we're good.
Oh,
We're good.
that was so chaotic and really stressful, but a lot of fun. My day would be ruined had it ended any other way. But
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah, I was getting honestly really angry during the third period, and I have to say that most games this season, when we've lost, I haven't really been super angry for most of them, more just sad and disappointed. But I was like actually feeling pissed today, with the way they played in the third period. So thank God that they managed to still get the 2 points. Part of it is the effect of the fact that it's the Habs and we all hate them, but also just how the team played as well. But I'm sure we'll get into all of that.
oh yeah, I mentioned after the last in the last episode I mentioned how Sens fans are always like we love this rivalry and how Habs fans are like we don't have a rivalry. We don't even like that's so like come on. The Sens Habs rivalry is a ton of fun.
You can clearly see it between the players too. Like if
Oh
the
yeah.
fans, some fans can try to act like, oh, we're above you. It's not a rivalry, but you see it on the ice.
Absolutely. And so yeah, just before we get into dissecting that mostly good game, quick word from our friends at Sports Interaction. Think you know what way it's going to go? Make your bet with Sports Interaction. Whether it's hockey, football, or basketball, Sports Interaction has you covered. Bet pregame, live in play, or on one of our many prop bets. Sports Interaction makes it easy to deposit, play, and cash out. Join now and see all sports betting has to offer. Want to bet? Head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. That's sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. 19 plus. Please play responsibly. I don't know where to start. Where do you want to start? I'm gonna leave this up to you because I don't know how we should approach this game.
So I feel like I don't want to be super pessimistic because
Mm-hmm.
they won, and I definitely do have optimistic thoughts that we'll get into later in the show, but I really was frustrated by that third period. So I feel like I want to get that out of my system first.
Go for it. Yeah, I saw you tweet. All right, last period before the All-Star break, time to just give her. And
Yeah.
then the worst period they've played in 3, 4, maybe 5 games.
Do we call that a bad tweet? Or did I just jinx them or what? Because I think it's a good tweet that
No,
it
no, it
was
makes sense.
it was
You
correct
had the
that
right
they
idea.
should have. Yeah, but it didn't age well at all.
No, also,
Considering the way that
yeah.
played out. Yeah, freaking Raphael Harvey Pinard. Had you heard of him before this weekend?
No. I don't think most
I
Habs
figured.
fans had either.
Yeah,
At least before his call up.
yeah. What a guy. But yeah, when he tied it at 4-4, I believe the shots were 9-2 for the Habs at that point in the third period. Just like and the second shot was Stutzle's goal. So other than the goal, we had only had one other shot in that entire period. Like that was just textbook. That was just textbook sitting back way too much and just allowing your opponent back into the game. Like if it wasn't for the Mike Hoffman goal with 5 seconds left in the second period, I could have kind of understood the strategy if you have a 2-goal lead going into the third period against a weaker team of not like pressing for offense a bunch, but with
Yeah.
only a 1-goal lead, they tried to play it way too safe.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really wish I could know in situations like this, like what the coach said in between periods, if he specifically told the team to try to just hunker down and only play defense, or if it just kind of happened that way that the players just ended up getting a little bit lackadaisical. Because we can never really know, and it's not great either way, but thank God we have some skill on this team that we can still just win despite doing that.
Real, real brave move from DJ if in fact what he said was, all right guys, hunker down and play defense, knowing the defense on this fucking team. Like,
Yeah.
all right boys, time to get caved in. Here we go. Like, as a choice, it's a really odd choice. I mean, you're up against a team like the Habs. I think you just kind of go, all right, we're scoring goals, just keep going for it. Because like, I mean, I guess this game was a bit more back and forth even through the first two periods, as decent as they were, compared to the third, more so than that 5-0 game on Saturday. But
Hmm.
I don't know. I feel like, and maybe this is just me convincing myself that I would have thought this going into the third, and it's not just like this hindsight thing. But like, I feel like you just keep your foot on the gas,
Yep.
like against a team that you know you can score a bunch on. Like, I mean, granted they are missing Caulfield, so that probably had a big. I think honestly, if Caulfield's in this game, I think the Sens lose. I think that's just how it goes. Like, there's
Probably.
no way he doesn't score this game. But yeah, I don't know. That's a good question actually. Yeah, was their game plan going into the third just try and shut it down defensively and not working at all, or what?
Yeah. This might be a bit of a galaxy brain theory, but I almost wonder if they're thinking like, okay, we're obviously not great at defense, and Montreal isn't great at scoring. So the coaching strategy going into the third period could have potentially been something like, let's just practice our defensive systems and just make sure we do everything right. And then it results in like a complete lack of offense. Like, who knows? There's no way we could know if that was the mindset, but I kind of feel like that's a possibility against a weaker team because, for example, if you have a 1-goal lead against like a really high powered offense, you're not going to want to sit back even more
Right.
because you'll just be like, they're going to get chances anyway, so we need to outscore them, right? But against a weaker team, they might be thinking like, oh, we can shut them down for sure, which with the Sens, it never really goes that way, does it?
Didn't work. Yeah, giving up 2 power play goals against the worst power play in the league. I believe I
Yeah,
think I
I was
saw
going to point that out.
I think I saw on the broadcast TSN saying that the Habs have an 11.5% power play at home this
Oh
season.
God. Oh.
Oh yeah, he's like, I think that's what it said. If not, then maybe I'm a little bit off. But I'm pretty sure I remember that being the stat, which is horrifying. So to let a team like that go 40% on you on their power
Hmm.
play, it's a bit that's a tough look. Um, Sens power play, unsurprisingly 2 for 3.
Yeah,
So
good as
that's,
always.
yeah, just
I
incredible.
loved that DeBrincat goal. Just
Oh yeah.
absolutely beautiful. That's the type of goal that we've been expecting him to be scoring all season, right? Like since we
Mhm.
acquired him, like that is exactly that type of one-timer on the power play. Just beautiful and amazing pass from Stutzle as well.
Yeah, amazing passes all throughout that game. Really, the on Stutzle's first goal, that spin pass, I think it was Joseph.
Yeah, Joseph,
Like,
yes.
just great. Like, offensively, the Sens looked great all night. Defensively, it was a bit more, yeah, a bit more hit or miss. Um, yeah, I don't know. So what I think is kind of funny is the fact that it was such a tight game. And what was Jake Allen's final? So Jake Allen finished with an 828 save percentage for the Habs, and
Oh,
which
yeah.
is rough, but like, he kind of had a couple insane saves. Like, the Sens probably shouldn't have needed that last goal to win it. Like, the Sens probably should have scored 6 or 7.
Yeah, it's funny that he allowed 2 of the first 3 shots, and then let me see what the total shots we got at the end. We ended up with 6 shots in the third period, but it was like 2 out of like 4 or something in the third period,
Right.
like in terms of how they were sequenced. So, but in the middle of the game there, he was completely like unstoppable. He had before DeBrincat scored, he had that amazing save on him. I think it was with the glove, and then he
Mhm.
also had that stick save on Parker Kelly. I think those were on the same play. There was no stoppage in between, so then they didn't even have a chance to show the replay of the first DeBrincat one. And there was a Forsberg save as well. So yeah, like you said, Allen with that ugly save percentage, but it was totally not his fault at all tonight. He still had some amazing saves.
Yeah, Forsberg got a couple of good ones as well. He also finishes with a not very pretty 875. But honestly, I think
Team doing him no favors
oh
though.
yeah, absolutely. And you throw this one in with the last 2 games, like, he's looked so good. the last few
Yeah.
games, so that's nice.
I was thinking about after they scored the fourth goal, if you average out his goals against from the last 3 games, it's still a 2 GAA, I think, right? Because it's 6 goals against in 3 games.
Yeah. Yeah.
So still looking good, even though it's a bad save percentage in this game. If you average out his last 3, is actually very good. And then he allowed 1 goal in that Islanders game when he played half the game, but he was still solid in that one too. So it's like
Right.
7 goals against in 3.5 games. That's very good. If you could keep up a pace like that, just have only the occasional game like this, where you allow a few, if you have those shutouts as well, like he did in the previous game. I'm very happy with Forsberg lately.
Yeah, absolutely no complaints from me either. This game also clinches the series against the Habs this season. That's 3 out of 4 games completed with 3 wins for the Sens, so that's always fun. And now the Sens go into the All-Star break, technically, according to hockey rules, above 500. So that's fun.
Once again, above 500. We'll see how long it takes for us to end up 3 games below again. Because I feel like this is the third or fourth time this season where we've been like, hey, we got to 500. And then it never lasts.
Yeah.
It has not lasted at all yet.
Have we had this conversation? Like, do you think that 24, 23, and 3 is above 500? Like, or do you kind of just go along with, like, it's for me, it's like, I don't think that's above 500, but also I just want to be able to say that my favorite hockey team is above 500, so I'm just embracing the hockey, like, version of it, I guess.
Yeah, I agree that technically it's not, because it is literally more losses than wins, but I'll go by the NHL logic, and they say 500, and hell, the points percentage is literally above 500. It's 510 right now. So
yeah.
Going off of points percentage, it's not. Yeah, you have to play the semantics game. If you go off of wins and losses percentage directly, it's not above 500, but points percentage, we'll take that.
I like that. I like that take. I like that point of view on it. Yeah. So yeah, I want to highlight Tim Stutzle, just overall a 4-point game. And weirdly enough, I don't know if it's his best game. Like, I don't think he has any other 4-point nights, but I don't know if it's his best. Like, that's how good he's been this season.
He's had some banger games lately. I feel like there was another 4-point night. Yeah, he had that in that goofy game against Seattle. He had the hat trick and an assist.
Oh, that's right. I repressed that.
That one's hard to remember.
Tucked that away.
Everyone wants to forget that game.
Yeah. So that makes sense. What a waste of a game from him. Like, what a complete just. It's like that makes me think of, like, not the same exactly, but I think there was a playoff game. I think it was in 2012 against the Rangers where Chris Neal scores 2 goals and the Sens still lose. I think it's like one of those, like, just wasting, like, an incredible opportunity. I don't know why I brought that up. I completely derailed that. That just suddenly came to mind. But yeah,
I think I said after that Seattle game, I was very happy that Stutzle already had a hat trick in his career, because it would have been lame as hell if that was his first hat trick and you lose 8-4. So, like, at least he already got the first hat trick out of the way, so you can have that happen and it doesn't matter so much.
Yeah. Yeah, Timmy looking so good as usual. Putting in over another minute, over a minute on PK again. Like, he's just turning into, like, a 2-way monster, which I think we've talked about this several times before as well, but, like, I don't think any of us, like, figured he was going to be a 2-way. We were like, oh, so he's Patrick Kane and it's going to be, like, all offense and 0 defense, but holy crap.
I remember seeing him in the World Juniors for Germany. Right after we drafted him, because it was a weird COVID year, right, where the draft was virtual, and then they played the World Juniors like in August or September or something before the NHL season started. I think it was in a bubble, right, in the Edmonton bubble.
So that draft was what? Like, I think that was a really late draft, wasn't it? Was that somewhere between August and October?
Yeah. It might have been in October.
I think the World Juniors happened the usual time, but just before the NHL season started, because that was a January start.
Yeah, it was the NHL season that was delayed. They started January. That's what it was. But yeah, the Edmonton bubble was still up. So the point is, I remember watching him in the Edmonton bubble for Team Germany and absolutely just carrying that team on his
Oh
back. And
yeah.
what I remember was being surprised by like his physicality and a bit of the two-way game as well, because you expect him to just be, like you said, an all skill guy, but he
Hmm.
was actually really intense in that World Juniors and just all over the ice. So I think now that he's getting more used to the NHL and maybe getting more used to like the size and stuff, you're not
Hmm.
always the biggest guy out there anymore, but he's growing into it more in this league. I think we're really seeing him just have a huge impact in ways other than offense.
Yeah. That was a really fun World Juniors. I think it's was that the year? So it was a 2020. I think it was the year that the Sens had like 8 or 9 players at the World Juniors. Like that felt like the Sens World Juniors year. Absolutely.
Sanderson must have been there too.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe Greg was there.
I don't think
I'm sure. I'm sure there was a
maybe it was
bunch of
another year.
guys.
Anyway, yeah. So yeah, I completely agree with all the Timmy love. Um, Mike Hoffman had to score because he had to.
Of course.
Um,
At least Dadonov didn't score as well. We'll
oh,
we'll
could
allow
you
one. If
imagine?
it was, yeah, if both of them scored, then I would be angry. Oh, and it could have been, well, imagine a trifecta with a Chris Weidman goal as well.
Just oh,
That's the nightmare blunt rotation right there.
that's
In
that's the
in in
yeah.
goal scoring form.
Oh, like so that's the thing. Like as upset as we were with the third period, we're finding ways to like we're finding hypotheticals for us to be even more upset following
Yeah,
this
it
game.
could have been worse.
What's
The fact that
what's
we still won, I'll take it.
yeah, what's worse? A loss like they would have lost today, or a win where Weidman, Hoffman, and Dadnov all score. That's a tough.
Ooh.
That's tougher to answer than I'd like to admit. Honestly, that's
If it's if it's a loss, like with the game playing out the same way, but just not getting that last goal from Brady and then eventually losing, I would say the loss would probably piss me off more, just because I was
fair.
I was really mad during that third period. So, like if we win, I'd be like, oh, whatever, screw those former Sens. But
Yeah,
losing this game would have really pissed me off. So, I'll go with that.
I think I'm with you. I think you convinced me. I was kind of leaning towards I'll take a loss if no one I'm mad at scores, but that's yeah.
I
Oof.
do have to say though, it's a bit of a double-edged sword going into the All-Star break on a 4-game winning streak, because now I'm looking at the standings again, which is halfway a good thing, but
Right.
also just a bad thing for completely getting my hopes up, because we know how it goes.
Yeah, now Pierre's gonna trade a second for a third pairing defenseman, and
Yeah,
it's yeah, and then that second is gonna be like 40th overall, and it's gonna become an everyday NHL player, and yeah, I don't know. I
and
just
then
like
the rental defenseman walks in free agency.
yeah, can like I don't care how close the Sens are to the playoffs, but I mean the trade deadline is just over a month from now, but like don't this team can't buy. Like the team like come
Yeah,
on. We can't sit around and be happy with this team buying because it's like, "Oh cool, they got to play 4 games in the playoffs." Like just prep for next year. Next year if this team can address defense next year, um like I guess goaltending too. I think consistency with goaltending is the issue, but defense is 100% like the biggest problem I think. Speaking of which, we all thought we got to see Nikita Zaitsev's goal. Uh,
oh, I wish it was his goal, to be honest. What about
yeah,
you?
me too.
Do you prefer Giroux's 20th of the season, or do you prefer Zaitsev's first of the season? Because
Giroux
it's
deserves
funny.
it, but Zaitsev scoring on the Habs is very funny. It would have been funny if it was the Leafs, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I
definitely
think he did score on the Leafs either last year or the year before,
that sounds
Zaitsev,
right. That sounds right.
which is rare, because usually if he does score, which is already super rare, I think like half his goals with the Sens are empty netters too. So the fact
Yeah,
that he beat a goalie with his shot, even though it was deflected, like props to him. We
for
don't see
sure.
that very often.
All right. And we do have a little tiny thing planned here heading into the All-Star break. Is there anything else from the game you want to talk about before we get into our kind of past the halfway,
I'm
but
good.
kind of okay. All right,
Should be good.
nice. So, Maud had this idea where we go over a few things, like as far as like going into the break, because we are about 9 games past the halfway point of the season, heading into the All-Star break. What are our most what we think is the most surprising, most disappointing, and then just something that's kind of gone exactly as expected heading into the season. So I don't know which one you want to start with. Do you have a preference? Like, do you have one that you definitely want to get out of the way first?
I think let's go positive first with the surprises, then disappointments, and then kind of level out with like the mid things,
That's exactly how I wrote them in my notes. Perfect. All
Perfect.
right. Perfect. So it was your idea, so I'll go first with most surprising at risk of stealing yours. But the fact that Jake Sanderson is playing like a top four level defenseman and could be playing as at that level, like that's like a top four level defenseman on any team, frankly, at
Mm-hmm.
20 years old. Like put him on a contender, you'd still want him as a top four defenseman. Um, and I feel like I'm just going to be repeating everything that we've ever said about him every single game. The Sens get blown out. You still go, well, Jake Sanderson looked good. So
Yep.
just the fact that he's a 20-year-old top four defenseman is ridiculous.
Yeah, I actually thought about talking about Sanderson for the things that went as expected category,
Wow.
just because I had really bought into the hype as him for like as a prospect for him.
Mm,
However, I think the reason why I agree that it's a surprise is because we didn't get that good of a defense partner for him to play with. The fact that he is
yeah.
totally carrying his defense pairing with Travis Hamonic all season and sometimes making Hamonic look good. That's more impressive to me and more surprising that like as a rookie he doesn't need someone to carry him along or ease him in.
Hmm.
Like I'm sure coaches and teammates and stuff will give Hamonic some credit for that, like helping him adjust to the pro level, but Sanderson looks like he will just be amazing regardless of who his partner is and regardless of whether or not Hamonic is playing well. So I do agree with you. I think that element of it makes it a surprise at how consistent he's been as a rookie too. That's the big thing for rookies, especially defensemen, is consistency. Not very many mistakes in his game at all this season.
Yeah, and it just like, I mean, I guess they're kind of also doing it with Ridley Gregg on game four, where he's playing a little bit of power play and PK here and there. But like Sanderson's getting a ton of extra teams time right from the start, and just not at all looking out of place. So I think he's the biggest surprise as far as like I also was buying into the hype, but like I went into like, okay, if he can play like an NHL caliber player at 20 years old, I'm thrilled. And he's playing like
Mm-hmm.
like a star level. Like he's phenomenal.
He honestly, I kind of just randomly thought of this, but in terms of playstyle, I feel like he reminds me a lot of Jacob Slavin.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is that's good company,
Yeah, that's
frankly.
a good comparison.
That's that's I mean it's not like a name that casual hockey fans will pull out. So any like casual fans hear Jacob Slavin, they're like whatever. That's not Drew Doughty, but like just got yeah, because like that's the thing. Like just good defensive defensemen are so underrated,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, if honestly if Jake Sanderson just ends up being Jacob Slavin 2.0, I'm thrilled. I'm so happy with
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Just left-handed shot D with great skating, decent
Hmm.
size. I think Slavin's a little bit bigger than Sanderson, but regardless, and defense first, but then being able to chip in a solid amount of offense too. Because Slavin's never been a big point producer,
Right.
but still like gets the points here and there to the point where he's a little bit more than a defenseman purely and more of a two-way D. And we're already seeing that from Sanderson as well. I don't think he got any points today, but I think he's already at 20 points on the season,
Yeah.
which if he finishes like between 30 and 40 points, that's amazing.
Yeah. All right. What is your most surprising?
I'm going to go with the fact that Brady Tkachuk is point per game this far into the season. Like uh props to him for the awesome game winning goal tonight. I had to flip the jersey around to shout him out. The thing is with Kachuk, like last season, he hit the 30 goal mark, I think, like right at the end of the season.
Hmm.
And he was a little below 70 points. And just kind of the projections for Kachuk was, I feel like everyone just expecting kind of a 60-ish point guy consistently, and
Yeah.
then maybe he could become a point per game player if he's like getting carried by his line mates or something, which is absolutely not happening this year. Like him and Stutzle have kind of been locked at the hip for the whole year, but I wouldn't say that either one is like carrying the other. Like they're both just uniquely really good in their own ways and bring totally different things to the game that complement each other's play styles. But the fact that Brady Tkachuk is putting up so many points already this early in his career just has me super excited for his future, because it just feels like the sky's the limit at this point. Like he's always kind of been in the shadow of his brother in terms of point production. Like everyone talking about how Matthew is the more skilled of the two, but he's really closing that skill gap this year, I think. And I'm just really happy about that.
I can't talk about this too much because it's spoilers for something I have written down for later on. So I can't. I completely agree that it is wild that he is a point per game this far in.
Leading the team too, because the other thing I wanted to say was at the beginning of the season, if I was doing point projections, I don't think I would have had him as the top scorer on the team. I think I would have assumed that like Stutzle, DeBrincat, and maybe Batherson would be kind of the higher point scorers, but
Right.
no, he's just been leading the team. He's been number one on the points list for this team all season, and that's not because other people are underperforming. It's because he is performing even better than I expected.
I like that pick. I really like that pick. Moving on to most disappointing, I think it's got to be Josh Norris and how the team dealt with the injury.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's what you also have, but
it's not, but
it's not.
but
Yeah.
you are correct.
Just
You're correct in this
like
pick.
the team. So say everything goes according to plan from this point out, and the team squeaks into the playoffs. Had Norris gone straight to surgery, he's probably back in time for playoffs.
Yeah, that is possible. Yeah.
But also just like listen, whether or not it was like if you talk to 6 doctors and they all said no, like go like rehab it, then hell yeah. But don't put him in the lineup and say he can't take faceoffs, but he's ready to go. Like
That was just silly.
what the fuck? Like that's just so dumb, so dumb. And the fact that it wasn't like an immediate red flag to everyone involved is wild to me. So I think that's just a joke that you and like granted now he's the number 2 center, but going into the season that's your top center. So you're missing your top center for all season long, and you just completely screw up his return by rushing him when you really didn't have to.
I feel like at the point that he shows up to practice and he either says, I can't take faceoffs, or the coaches or doctors recommend that he shouldn't take faceoffs, then the coach and the GM have to say, okay, you're not playing then because the shoulder isn't ready. But they didn't think that way.
Yeah, and the upsetting thing is that there's a long list of things to choose for most disappointing, but I think just the fact that you're going into your season, your number 1 center is out so quickly sucks. But like what sucks even more is just the way his injury was dealt with. But yeah, so I think that's about as much as we can talk about that. What's your most disappointing?
I'm going with our 5v5 goal scoring. The
Oh
fact that
yeah.
the fact that it sits in the bottom 5 in the league, it probably climbed up a little bit through the last few games, but I had checked before that Islanders game and it was second last and only 1 ahead of Chicago. Since we did score, only 1 ahead of Chicago. That means that like freaking Arizona and Columbus had more 5-on-5 goals. Like again, and freaking Anaheim, like come on. We probably passed a couple teams with what is it? Like is it 16 goals? Yeah, 16 goals in the last 3 games. So however many of those were 5-on-5, it's been an improvement lately. But going into this season, I totally expected us to be. You know what? I expected more games to be like today's game, where it's just like a 5-4 shootout, whether we win or lose, just scoring and getting by on our skill, which I think the coaching staff obviously wanted to avoid that. But the problem is that it doesn't feel like they're playing to their strengths in terms of their 5v5 systems, where they're just trying to play grinding style defensive dump and chase when we suck at defense. We have okay grinders in the bottom 6, but they suck at offense. And then our top 6 guys are not really dump and chase style, except for maybe Kachuk can do decent at that style. So on one hand, like, you could say that it might necessarily not be a bad thing that we aren't just having like 6-5 wins every time and just playing crazy games, but we really should be scoring more at 5-on-5. We shouldn't be having to rely on the power play so much. I wasn't expecting. On one hand, you know what? If we want to talk about surprises, I'm kind of surprised that the power play has been as good as it has, but then it's a trade-off with the disappointment at 5v5.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I mean, I think everyone went into the season expecting the power play to be lethal, at least top 10. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think the power play is better than everyone expected, and then the 5v5 is like an absurd level of disappointing. I don't know how this team doesn't score 5v5. Is it a matter of possession? Like, is it just that, like, does it go back to like possession numbers? Is it just like maybe is it a lack of high danger chances? I don't know if that's the case because the Sens have like such like an insane number of expected goals for, like,
Mm-hmm.
it's I don't know. Something's not
Yeah,
right, and I can't figure it
it's
out.
weird. It's weird because I want to say that it has to do with the systems at 5v5, but at the same time, we do have pretty good advanced stats metrics, and we've had so many games where it's like, according to the numbers, the Sens should have won, and then they didn't freaking score at all.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's my biggest disappointment.
that's a good pick. That's a good pick. All right, now with time winding down, let's head into the just as expected. So this is kind of fun with given your most surprising. So an honorable mention, I think, for as expected is the record that the Sens have, which I think everyone is weirdly bummed about. Well, not weirdly bummed about. I'm in that group too, but everyone's saying like, "Oh, the Sens can play 500 this season. I'm gonna be happy and enjoying it." And the Sens are playing 500, and like the friggin' place has been on fire like 6 different times this season. So
Yeah, it's because it's such a roller coaster, up and down, like going a little bit above 500 and then way back down,
yeah,
instead of just being like consistently win one, lose one.
yeah. But my actual answer is Brady Kachuk is having Brady Kachuk's having a Brady Kachuk season, but like
He's having the breakout season.
it's like the most Brady Kachuk season, and like you said, like last year he was like right around 30, he was like 30 goals, like right around 70 points, and I know like a lot of people were like, oh, so he hit his like ceiling now, and I never once thought that. I thought like bank on him having 75, 80 points this year. Um, but yeah, so he's now above a point per game at 51 and 50. But the thing with Brady is that also he's sixth in shots. So well, this doesn't include tonight's game. This is coming into tonight's game. So I don't know if this is all exact. It's gonna stay pretty close. But he's sixth in shots in the league and 20th in hits. And now 20th doesn't sound as nice as sixth in shots. Like you're 20th in hits, or whatever. But that still makes him basically a unicorn. So I was looking around.
Yeah.
And then so you have so there's only 2 players, and so if you sort the league by hits, if you go most hits to least, there are only 2 players in the top 59 for hits that have over 200 shots, and that's Kachuk and Ovechkin.
I was gonna say anyone else who's ahead of him in the hits ranking is like all grinders or like defensive defensemen, right? So it's rare to have a top point scorer with those hits.
Exactly. And if you even expand it even more, so Timo Meier is that 60th player he's 60th in hits, but also has over 200 shots. So there's 3 in the top 60. But then following Meier, you have to go all the way down to 226th in hits to find someone who has 200 shots.
Wow. That's way more than I thought it would be.
Yeah, so only 4 out of the 226 players with the most hits have 200 shots. So, and that, weirdly enough, that player with 200 shots who's 226 in hits is Austin Matthews, which not the 4th player in that like list I'd pick.
Yeah.
But yeah, all that to say, like, yeah, Brady Kachuk is like everyone knows what a Brady Kachuk season is. It's potting in a few goals and shooting and hitting a ton, and he's just doing more of everything every single year. So that's my thing, is that Brady Kachuk is having the most Brady Kachuk season he could possibly have.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. He's just automatic for the shots and the hits, like regardless of his production. So that makes perfect sense for your pick there.
Yeah.
And then For mine, I honestly don't have too much to say about it, but I'm going to just gloat about Tim Stutzle a little bit more because we love this kid and he is just completely amazing. Just awesome stuff. We were talking earlier about his two-way game, and he's just developed into like an all-around beast first line center. He should be in the all-star game, but we got screwed by the Twitter fan vote. And just the fact that I think he's our highest draft pick since like Chris Phillips, right? Pretty sure.
Phillips was first in 96. Yeah, that sounds right.
I don't think we ever picked a top 3 since then.
No.
So the fact that he is like elite this early in his career just makes me so excited. And he's like, I filed this under the like going as expected because it is exactly what you want from a top 3 pick. And he's the best player in his draft. So I'm just totally happy with him. Like we knew the sky was the limit for him. And I am like not shocked at all by how amazing he's doing because he was just like I mentioned the World Juniors that he played earlier. And I was just utterly wowed by him just carrying that like weak Germany team along with Peterka back then. And so you could see it in Tim Stutzle from a young age.
Yeah, that 8x8 contract kicking in next year is going to be
already a steal.
It's a top 10 contract in the league. It's going to be incredible. Imagine him at 25.
If we hadn't signed him until like the end of the season, if he was going to be an RFA, he'd probably be demanding 10 mil, I think.
10 mil or like 8 mil a year for like a bridge, right? Like
on less years, yeah.
Yeah, like a 2-year 8 mil per kind of thing, maybe. Well, that was a fun little exercise. I enjoyed that. That was a good time. All right. Well, as always, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to Game Over Ottawa. Make sure to like and subscribe and, enjoy the All-Star break. Enjoy some time off from hockey because even us diehard fans need some time away every so often. So we will see you folks next time when the Sens are back playing more Canadian teams. See ya.
Have a good night, everyone.
Game over! Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.